Welcome to a deep dive, into the world of Northern Soul. You shared a fantastic YouTube documentary about this whole music and dance phenomenon, and uh, and I have to admit, I was hooked from the very first scene. It's fascinating to see how it all took root in 1970s Britain,
Hmm.
a time and place that wasn't exactly known for its upbeat vibes. You know.
Yeah, it is intriguing, isn't it? The backdrop of economic hardship and social unrest in 1970s Britain actually played a significant role in shaping Northern Soul's identity, offered a sense of escape and community for working class youth who were yearning for something more.
Okay, so let's dig into the music itself. When we say Northern Soul, we're not just talking about any soul music, right?
Huh.
What makes it distinct?
You're absolutely right. It's much more specific than that. Northern soul enthusiasts went on a quest for rare and often overlooked American soul records. But it wasn't just about obscurity. The music had to possess certain qualities. Think faster tempos, a heavy emphasis on the break or instrumental section, and a raw emotional intensity that really set it apart from the more polished soul hitting the mainstream charts.
So we're talking about B-sides, regional releases, songs that might have flown under the radar in the U.S., but suddenly found a fervent audience across the Atlantic.
Precisely. And that sense of discovery was a huge part of the appeal. It was like unearthing hidden treasures,
Oh.
these musical gems that spoke to a specific energy and emotion.
And how did this very specific subgenre of soul music end up with the name Northern Soul?
Well, the story goes that the term was coined by a London record shop owner who noticed that Northern football fans were consistently requesting these unique, hard-to-find soul records. He observed this distinct pattern of musical taste linked to a geographic region, and the name stuck.
It's funny how these seemingly random observations can become part of cultural history. So we've got the music, this quest for rare and soulful sounds. But Northern Soul was much more than just listening to records at home, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It quickly evolved into a full-fledged subculture with its own unique ritual style and values. And at the very heart of it were the all-nighters.
The all-nighters. I have to admit, even just watching the footage of the documentary, I could feel the energy. Tell us more about these legendary events.
These all-night dance parties were exactly as the name suggests, all night. Some would run from 2 a.m. to 8 a.m., which is quite remarkable when you think about it. Iconic venues like Wigan Casino, Blackpool Mecca, and the Golden Torch became almost like pilgrimage sites for Northern Soul devotees.
That dedication is incredible. What do you think fueled that drive to keep dancing for hours on end? Was it purely the music, or was there something more at play?
It's a great question. While the music was undeniably the driving force, there were other layers to it. These all-nighters became spaces of belonging, of shared passion and escapism. They provided a release from the everyday struggles of life, a chance to lose yourself in the music and the community.
The documentary definitely captured that sense of community. It felt like more than just a shared love of music. It was a way of life for many people.
Exactly. And that extended to every facet of the Northern Soul experience, from the unique dance style that emerged to the distinctive fashion choices.
Let's talk about the dance style. Even for someone like me who isn't a dancer, it's captivating to watch. It's so fast, energetic, and unlike anything I've seen before.
The Northern Soul dance style is truly unique. It's characterized by fast footwork spins, backdrops, a high-energy blend of athleticism and improvisation. And what's fascinating is that some dancers actually trace the origins of this style back to Bruce Lee movies.
Wait, Bruce Lee. Now that's an unexpected connection.
Right.
How did that influence find its way onto the dance floor?
It's a fun little piece of cultural history. It's believed that some young lads, inspired by Bruce Lee's speed and agility, started incorporating those martial arts-inspired moves into their dancing. And as with many things in subcultures, it caught on, evolved, and became part of the scene's distinct identity.
So from obscure American soul records to kung fu movie influences, it seems like Northern Soul pulled from some pretty diverse sources to create its own unique cultural blend.
Absolutely. It speaks to the creativity and ingenuity of subcultures, how they draw inspiration from unexpected places and forge something entirely new. And that sense of innovation extended to the fashion as well.
Yes, the fashion. Those iconic white trousers, the tailored shirts, the specific shoe styles, it all contributes to the visual identity of Northern Soul.
The clothing wasn't just about looking good. It was about self-expression, about belonging to a tribe. And there was a competitive element to it as well. As dancers tried to outdo each other with their moves, the fashion evolved too, becoming more flamboyant and eye-catching. Think wider trousers, more pockets, intricate button, details, a constant push to stand out and make a statement.
So it's like peacocks displaying their plumage but with fashion instead of feathers.
Yeah.
Was this about attracting attention from the opposite sex? Or was it more about establishing your status within the scene itself?
It was likely a bit of both. While individual motivations varied, the fashion played a role in signaling your dedication to the scene, your individuality, and even your skill level as a dancer. The more elaborate and stylish your outfit, the more you stood out, both literally and figuratively.
It's amazing how clothing can become a language in itself, communicating so much about identity and belonging within a specific group. And speaking of belonging, the documentary really highlighted the deep sense of community that Northern Soul fostered.
It did, didn't it? And to understand that sense of community, we have to look beyond the music and the fashion. We need to delve into the personal stories, the individuals who found a sense of purpose, belonging, and even escape within this world.
The documentary is filled with such compelling personal stories. Do any in particular stand out to you as really capturing the essence of what Northern Soul meant to people?
There are so many to choose from, but the story of Pete and Susan Davis, the couple who met at a Northern Soul event, really resonated with me. Decades later, their lives still revolve around the music, the dancing, the community. They even said the rest of the week's just a rest period in between the Northern Soul events.
Wow, talk about dedication. That's
Right.
more than just a hobby. It's woven into the very fabric of their lives.
And Susan's perspective on the role of fashion and dance within the scene was fascinating. She mentioned how the women were often drawn to the guys who could really dance, how being a skilled dancer elevated your status within the community.
So the dance floor wasn't just about letting loose. It was a stage to showcase your talent, your style, your individuality.
Exactly. And as she described the evolution of the clothing, the trousers getting wider, the intricate detailing, the specific shoe styles, it struck me as a visual parallel to the evolution of the dance itself. Both were about pushing boundaries, expressing yourself, and in a way competing for attention and admiration within the scene.
It's like the fashion became an extension of the dance, a way to amplify your presence and make a statement.
Precisely. And on that note, Susan also brought up the challenges of maintaining a relationship within this all-consuming subculture. She was candid about how crucial it was to share this passion with your partner, how it could put a strain on things if one person wasn't fully on board with the Northern Soul lifestyle.
That makes perfect sense. It's not just a weekend hobby. It's a way of life, a core part of their identity. It would be difficult to sustain a relationship if that shared passion wasn't there.
Absolutely. And then there's Brenda's story, which sheds light on another important aspect of the Northern Soul community, its inclusivity. As a Black woman, she talked about feeling a genuine sense of belonging within this predominantly white working class scene.
Her words about it being like a family really struck me. It speaks to the power of music to transcend social and racial barriers that might have existed outside of those dance halls.
It does, doesn't it? It highlights how Northern Soul, at its core, was about shared passion and a love for the music, creating a space where those differences faded away.
And that sense of belonging is echoed in Fran Franklin's story. She talked about finding an outlet, a sense of freedom and self-expression on the dance floor, especially as a young woman facing pressures at home.
Yes, and she had such vivid memories of the energy on the dance floor, particularly how it was mainly the guys who were up front showcasing their moves. And then there's that humorous anecdote about the origins of the dance style, how some people attributed those fast kicks and spins to Bruce Lee movies.
I love that detail. Imagine those young lads heading straight from the cinema to the dance floor, channeling their inner Bruce Lee.
It adds a layer of whimsy and unexpected inspiration to the story. But beyond the personal anecdotes, I think it's important to acknowledge the legacy of Wigan Casino. Even though it closed its doors in 1981, its spirit lives on within the Northern Soul community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's attained an almost mythical status, representing a golden age for the scene.
And while its closure marked a significant shift, the documentary shows how the scene adapted and evolved. Smaller events emerged, dedicated fans kept the music alive. And now we're seeing this resurgence with younger generations embracing Northern Soul through groups like the Wigan Young Souls.
It's a testament to the music's enduring appeal. It's not just about nostalgia. It's about the power of these sounds to move people, to connect them across generations.
And what's fascinating is that this passion has spread far beyond the borders of Northern England. Northern Soul events are now happening worldwide, from Tokyo to Dubai.
It's gone global. It's inspiring to see how something that started in those working men's clubs has become a global phenomenon, influencing musicians, designers, and dancers across cultures.
It speaks to the universality of the music itself. Those raw emotions, the powerful rhythms, the stories woven into the lyrics, they resonate with people on a deep level regardless of where they come from.
Now, the documentary didn't shy away from addressing the role of drugs within the Northern Soul scene. This is often a point of contention when discussing the movement's history.
It's an important aspect to acknowledge as it speaks to the complexities of subcultures and the potential for darker elements to emerge, even within communities centered around joy and shared passion.
The use of amphetamines, particularly speed, was prevalent, allowing dancers to stay up all night and keep moving to that fast-paced music.
The documentary highlighted how ingrained drug use was, even mentioning that knowing drug companies was as important as knowing record labels at the time.
It's a stark reminder that even within these seemingly utopian spaces of community and release, there can be risks and consequences.
It's crucial to acknowledge those aspects to understand the full context of the scene, both the positive and the negative. However, it's equally important to note that many within the Northern Soul community have spoken out against the glorification of drug use, emphasizing that the music and the community are what truly matters.
It's about separating the essence of the movement, the music, the dance, the sense of belonging from the potentially harmful behaviors that sometimes become associated with it.
Precisely. And that's a conversation relevant to any subculture or community. It's about fostering a space where people can connect and express themselves authentically while also promoting awareness, responsibility, and harm reduction.
The documentary ends with Paul Mason, the journalist, who guides us through the story, returning to a Northern Soul event after a 35-year absence. His experience seemed to capture so much about the enduring power of this music and community.
His reflections were incredibly poignant, weren't they? He talked about how the music instantly took hold of his body, making him remember the steps, the feeling, the energy of his youth.
It's like muscle memory, both physical and emotional. The music transported him back to a specific time and place, evoking those visceral memories.
Exactly. And what struck me was how he described the event as being filled with genuine passion. Not just a bunch of older folks clinging to the past. It was a celebration of the music, the community, and the enduring power of these shared experiences.
He also touched on how the music captures something essential about working-class Britain, about Black America, and about himself. It's like all these different threads of history, culture, and personal identity are woven into the music.
It's a beautiful illustration of how music can transcend boundaries, connecting us to something larger than ourselves. And it speaks to the universal human need for connection, for expression, for finding our tribe and celebrating those shared passions.
It really is remarkable how a music scene born out of a specific time and place can resonate so deeply with people across generations and cultures.
It speaks to the enduring power of music to connect us, doesn't it? It transcends language, background, even time itself. There's something primal about rhythm and melody that taps into our shared human experience.
And in the case of Northern Soul, it's not just the music itself, but the raw emotion it conveys. Those soulful vocals, the lyrics about heartbreak, longing, joy, resilience. They tap into universal feelings that we can all relate to.
Exactly. Whether you were dancing in a packed Wigan casino in the 70s or discovering these songs for the first time today, the emotional truth of the music shines through. It allows us to connect with those experiences, those stories, even if our own lives are vastly different from the artists who created them.
It's like a bridge across time and space,
Wow.
reminding us that we're not alone in those feelings. There's a sense of comfort and connection in knowing that others have felt those same joys and heartbreaks.
And that's the magic of Northern Soul, and really of any art form that touches us deeply. It allows us to tap into something universal, something that transcends our individual differences and reminds us of our shared humanity.
That sense of shared humanity feels especially important in today's world, where it's easy to feel isolated or disconnected.
I agree. In a world that often feels fragmented, these shared experiences, these subcultures that foster a sense of belonging, are more important than ever.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Northern Soul,
Yeah.
what do you think are the key takeaways? What can we learn from this movement that might resonate in our own lives today?
For me, it's a reminder to seek out those experiences, those communities, those forms of expression that make us feel truly alive, things that connect us to something larger than ourselves, that spark passion and a sense of belonging.
It's about embracing authenticity, seeking out genuine connections, and celebrating the things that bring us joy.
Exactly. And maybe it even challenges us to create those spaces of belonging in our own lives, whether it's through music, art, shared hobbies, or simply spending time with loved ones. It's about fostering those connections that enrich our lives and remind us of our shared humanity.
It's about finding our tribe, our people, and creating those moments of joy and connection that make life richer and more meaningful.
So as you reflect on this exploration of Northern Soul, I'd leave you with this final thought. What speaks to your soul? What ignites that passion, that sense of belonging, that feeling of being truly alive? Seek it out, nurture it, and share it with the world.
Who knows, maybe you'll inspire others to find their own Northern soul, their own way to connect, express, and belong. Thanks for joining us on this journey.